Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today it's time for another Drinking and Thinking with Zell. So you've got 9 seconds to get your drink of choice, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, guys, I just sitting here in the shop putting the finishing touches and just making sure everything was right on the Raptor XL and our Raptor. That's the Todd knife and tool, Raptor and Raptor XL. You'll be getting a video on one of these two later this week, and then the other one probably next week, as well as the Eschaton from Elijah Isham and Isham Blade Works and We Knife Company. That video will be coming early next week. Now, for our sharp news today, we have Chris Reeve for the first time adding a non-Chris Reeve knife to the web shop over there. So there's kind of a story about that, and it's kind of a cool little knife. It's called the Nilty, is the best I can do for pronouncing it, and it's just interesting. Knife News has that story, and then Andrew Demko of Cold Steel has built one massive knife. And you're going to want to go see this one, at least get a look at the pictures, and I think Knife News has a little video about it. And then over at The Truth About Knives, we have the story about a guy who protected himself and a young lady with a sword. Story's a little deeper than that, so you're going to want to go read it. And The Truth About Guns visited the Tops factory, and they have a bunch of cool little videos over there, and pictures, and some text, of course, about their visit, and it's really a really cool article, guys. You're going to want to see that. And then for videos this week, we have, of course, Nick Shabazz with his knife gripes. We've got curveball and tunnel vision, and I kind of agree with Nick on the curveball thing. We'll get more into that in some future video. And he also gets a look at the Kershaw dividend, and I thought that was interesting because he has different ideas about the dividend than I did. And he's more positive about it than I was. It's kind of an odd thing. So get over there and watch the video and see what he had to say. And then Jeremy up at Simple Little Life has built a rock tumbler. And it's a little light on details, but it's a cool maker video that you may want to go watch. From there, we go to Fun with Knives. And I sent Fun with Knives a Wee 614. Now, this wasn't a Wee-owned knife. This was my own Wee 614 that I sent over to Fun with Knives, actually my brother's, but still, it was one purchased just like everybody else would, and I asked Fun with Knives to just have at it. So he's kind of hard use testing that knife, and he's put it through the ringer. So he's got 2 videos. I've linked to the first video, and from the first video you can of course get to the second video. Pretty interesting to see what he's done and what his thoughts are on the knife. And hopefully we'll see a conclusion to that little video series very soon. And Kevin Cleary has got a video up on the Kershaw AM4. And I find this interesting because I've had these 2 little Kershaws. I believe it's the AM3, the little one, and the AM4 around here for several days, maybe a couple weeks, I'm not sure. And Kevin and I have got some very different opinions on these knives. And thought it might be interesting for you guys to go see what Kevin had to say about it. And then here in a few weeks, come back over here to my channel and see what I have to say about it. And last but not least, we have Walter Sorrells, who has made a knife center scribe for whenever you're grinding out your blades. And Walter's also doing something that I think is pretty cool. If you are a Patreon supporter of Walter's channel at any level, it doesn't matter if it's whatever the lowest level of Patreon is, which I don't know, or whatever the highest level is, you're going to have access to the plans for these little projects that Walter does. And what that means, Walter's going to go into probably Fusion 3D. He's going to draw up the project, and then he's going to save that project most likely in PDF or some sort of file that's easier for everyone to read as drawings with dimensions. So you'll be able to make pretty much exactly what Walter made. He'll have a materials list with it, and that's pretty cool. So, let's say the bottom Patreon support is $1. So for $12 a month or $12 a year, you could have all of Walter Sorrell's little project designs, which is, over a year, probably going to be 10, 12, 15 of them. And that could be very worthwhile for some of us. Anyhow, guys, from here, we're going to go to a table down. All right, guys, today we're talking about lock bars, lock bar tension, how a lock bar, detent ball, blade, bearings, all of it works together. To start with, let's look at what the detent ball is and what it does. You have a detent ball, if it's down, and this is a blade I've been working on, down in the little hole on your blade. This happens to be a lock bar out of a WE 702, and that is a 1.5 millimeter ball, 0.05 something inches. And that little bitty ball fits down in that hole like that and holds your blade closed. And that's all that's holding that blade closed is the tension on the lock bar and that little bitty ball. So we'll pick up the Endeavor here. If you look right there, you see how the lock bar is seated nicely against the blade. Pick it up a little bit, and I don't know how well we can see it, but the lock bar has a little bit of space back here. That's because we're off that detent ball. And then we flick it around, and the lock bar bends back in and goes up against the lock interface, providing our lockup. Now, if you're the knife maker or knife designer, people want good solid lockup. This Endeavor has it. They also want a flipping action. This Endeavor obviously has that as well. And they want to be able to close the knife smoothly. This Endeavor obviously does that too. So how does the knife maker or the designer achieve all these things? Well, it all has to do with, on a frame lock or a liner lock, with this little bar and the amount of tension. If you watch the Chris Reeve factory tour video that's on YouTube, they show you a video of bending this bar over. And what this bar is, it's just part of the handle that's been cut out. And then in the case of Chris Reeves, they have a little machine that bends the bar over to a specific place, giving them the amount of tension that they want. And that's how most of it's done. If it's a custom knife maker, he's going to be creating his own tension and bending his own bars without the fancy little machine. But however they do it, that's what we come up with. And this bar's job is, one, to lock the knife. That's job one. Once we've achieved locking the knife, it's to get that little detent ball down in that hole on the blade where it's supposed to be and hold that blade closed whenever you are messing with it under semi-normal conditions, even some abnormal conditions, so that you can put this blade in your backpack, your go bag, your purse, or your pocket and not have the knife come open on you. That is the purpose. Now, because of modern knife design and what we the consumer want and the knife maker wants, we've got to also be able to center that blade, and we also have to have that good flipping action and that good closing action. Well, to achieve these things, that lock bar tension has to be set pretty precisely. And you get it here with the Endeavor, and you get it here with most of the knives to some extent on the table, except for that Delica and this guy don't. Get them out of the way. And so the knife maker or the knife designer, whenever they get to the stage that they've got the knife mostly together, they're doing this balancing act to get the blade centered, to get the lock bar tension enough that you've got a good flipping action and a good closing action, and hold that blade in place whenever the knife is closed, as well as securely lock the knife up. And that's a whole lot of stuff for one small little area on the knife to be doing. This little area right here does all that stuff. Now, the machining practices and the bearings and all that, they have a great effect on those things. But in today's standards, especially with higher end production knives, and even a lot of the lower end production knives, the knives are square, everything works out right. And because of the bearings, we no longer have this ridiculously tight lock bar, unless you get a Riate Torrent, who does still have a ridiculously tight lock bar. And then we have this issue, which is kind of the point of the discussion today. We have reviewers and forum goers and everything else, and they want to say that if I can force this knife blade out, it's an unsafe knife, and it's awful. Be aware of it. It could be bad. It could kill you. Okay, this is a $400-some-odd knife that has been tuned extremely well, and I'm pretty sure that I can force that blade out of there without touching the blade. Yep. Okay, so I did it with a Liang Ma. It's an awful knife. We'll mark it off now, right? Because it's bad. Well, there is a over $400 Hinderer. Oh, it opened too. Well, you know, maybe the cheaper knives work. Here we got a Stedman at 60-some bucks. Oh, damn. It opened too. Oh, well. That Riate up there with that, everybody knows this thing has a great flipping action and a super stiff lock bar. It won't do it. Oh, damn. It did it too. So what is the deal here, guys? Well, the basic thing that I'm fussing about is, as a knife reviewer or as a person that is posting in the forums, let's not be stupid. Let's look at the way the knife is designed, and let's figure out where the safety is and where the safety isn't. You know, in the case of Hinderer, Rick Hinderer says in his literature that that is a valid method of opening the knife, and that may be him trying to avoid some of the legal stuff, I don't know. Or because it is a first responder knife, he may have specifically set it up that way because a Hinderer has way less lock bar pressure than many other knives. Now it does have that's one reason I'm sure Hinderer designed that lock bar stabilizer, to make sure that us idiots out here didn't break that lock bar off. But safety does not reside in you taking the knife and going wham and running it down there and then jerking it back a little bit. Physics takes over at that point. And whenever you've got a super free pivot and the ball bearings there, or the ball bearings on this Stedman, and you have that 1.5 millimeter ball and some lock bar, or in this case liner lock tension, holding that thing in place, it's going to happen. Physics rules. You go down there and you jerk it back just a little bit. The blade says, hey, I still got momentum. They didn't stop me. I've got this pivot here with the bearings in it. And whing, blade opens. So, if you're one of these people that is scared of your blade opening whenever you do ridiculous things with it, get yourself one of these and leave the rest of us alone. I tried for about 5 minutes to get that blade to come out, and you can do it on an old one, a worn out one. In fact, I've got a 503 somewhere around here that you can do it with. But with a fairly new one like this one, you can't do it. It's not gonna happen. Or, we'll leave that guy out here, or get you a Spyderco lock back or some other type of lock mechanism that prevents this stuff from happening. Lockbacks do, because they've got quite a bit of tension here on this bar and on this bar, even whenever they're in the closed position. Leave the rest of us the heck alone. Stop trying to scare newbies, because we don't need people afraid of their knives. We need to be fostering a knife community and telling the truth, explaining what's going on with the knives, not reaping or sowing fear in the knife community, especially for those new people. So, if you are afraid of your knife coming open in your pocket because you can take this knife and you can wham it out there, then get yourself a lock back and leave the rest of us the hell alone. Now, if you have other ideas on this, and yeah, I got a little worked up, but if you've got other ideas on this and you can back it up with facts, not with, opinions, let me know. But I have seen so many times some knife reviewer do that with a knife, and you can see that they have taken this knife and they have rammed it in there just as hard as they can, and then gave it a little bit of a jerk back or stopped their hand. And guys, you can't fight with physics. Physics always wins. Anyhow, I really appreciate you watching, and Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.